Good morning. Day 226. It is August 14th, 2022. At the time of this recording, we're in chapter 14 of the book of Luke. And Jesus has a lot to say as usual. But what we're going to focus on today is a concept of counting the cost. And those are the words he uses. So not even trying to rephrase it, so this will probably, I'm going to really try to keep it short today. Let's see if I can do it. I know verbal processor, these things are usually 15 to 20 minutes long. Let's see if we can make it short, but pack a powerful punch. And counting the cost is what Jesus is asking us to do. He's got some followers. He's attracting followers and crowds. Good morning. Good morning. And a few ask if they can be his disciples. And he says, be careful. Like, you need to know what you're getting into here. You need to do your homework, sit down and really think about it, and really count the cost. Because what I'm asking you and of my disciples, it's a lot, and it's not easy for you humans. The amount of attention, focus, intention, faith, trust, love that you put in me, by comparison, you're going to hate your family. Like, now he doesn't literally say you need to hate your family, but by comparison, what I'm asking you to feel and live from me as a follower and a disciple is going to, by comparison, feel like you hate your family. Brother, sister, he names all the different relationships. That's tough. Like, can we do that? I think it's possible. And again, in God's upside down world and kingdom and way of doing things, when we are able to move in that direction and love God, all of our heart, soul, spirit, mind, body, strength, it actually allows us to love the people we think we love even more, from a more pure place. But when our starting point and our life force and our roles and our identity are in those roles, and we just love people desperately in our own strength, that's more from an ego standpoint. Like, that whole you complete me, I would die if you died kind of thing. That's our human version of love. So when we're actually able to count the cost and move in God's direction, it's that super on our natural. And supernaturally, we're actually able to love people better. Healthier, maybe that's a better word, from a healthier place, because our ego is not all mixed up in it, and our ego doesn't get mixed up with their ego. Hey, good morning, good morning. Again, easier said than done, which is why you've got to come every day and say, I try to lay my ego down, try to pick up that cross. And he gives a couple of other examples to help us understand what he's talking about here. And he says, would a builder, or somebody who's going to build a big building, wouldn't they do their homework first? Wouldn't they plan, see what all the materials they need, what the labor costs would be, how much time it's going to take, where they have to get all their resources, and make sure that they actually have enough to do what is in their plans? Of course. And if they didn't, if they just said, I'm going to build, even if we think about building the temple, like back in the Old Testament, there were very specific instructions. They had to get prepared. They had to get all the materials. the budget had to be there, the labor had to be there. If you just get so excited about something, and this is what I think he was noticing in these people that were asking, like they were excited, they were motivated, they were inspired. But Jesus knows how fleeting that can be with humans. That as soon as the going gets tough, the tough get going, right? And that's what he's like, slow down, slow your horses, slow your roll. Like, I want you to really think about what it is that I'm asking. I want you to fully understand. Because if you start building something and you don't have what it takes to finish it, well, not only have you wasted your own time and energy, but you've wasted a lot of other people's time and energy. And then you've got something that is useless, and maybe not even useless, but might be a hindrance in the community, in your life. Like be careful, because you've got to really know what you're getting into. He uses another example of two kingdoms possibly going to war, and the respective leaders need to really sit down, and the person who maybe wants to go to war that has half the troops of the other kingdom, and maybe half the soldiers, half the resources, all of that, he should really calculate, like, is this a good plan of action, plan of attack? Should I do this? Or maybe I should send out, maybe there's a better plan, a better strategy, and I should try to broker peace first. So thinking. In my world, I actually think this is one of the things that I've was finally able to do several years ago. I sat down and I counted the cost. I got my mind right. I didn't just keep, this is our mentality now, is like quick fixes. Like we see somebody else having success and we're like, okay, I'll go do that in 30 days and I'll be a new woman. And, and then we get there and then we run out of steam. We're just like that builder who started something and we can't finish. It's like, oh, this sucks. And then we keep spinning our wheels and spending our energy and spending our life force in things that don't really last, and that we don't really have the fortitude, or it doesn't even line up with us and our lives and our values. So taking the time to really sit down and plan and evaluate. And the question I ask myself, the way that I count the cost, is to say, even if, like, let's say I make this change, I play it all the way forward. Like, I envision my future self in whatever capacity of whatever mountain I'm tackling at the time. And then what it's going to take to not only get there, but to maintain it. Because why am I going to spend all this time and energy trying to, by willpower, do something that I'm not willing to do forever? And because then, even though I may hit my goal, let's see, a weight loss is common for everybody. Like, gotta lose, 25 pounds. And we go on some of these extreme eating plans and, and yes, do they work? Sure they work. But the minute you go back to normal life, you're like, oh, hit the goal. Then you stop doing all the things that got you there. And then you find yourself right back. Because you can't, you chose a way to get somewhere that you can't actually keep doing forever. And then people think, well, I've had success. I know how to lose 25 pounds. It's like, oh yeah? You know how to lose it, but you also keep putting it back on, and you're in this cycle. That is like, I didn't want to do that anymore. So making fundamental changes slowly, even if other people aren't happy with it, even if it costs me relationships, but it's something I know from internal integrity that I can maintain and do forever, and that it's worth it. It's worth the cost of certain people not being too thrilled with the changes that I'm making. But I know that God needs me to show up, and the world at large, the common good, like what I'm doing fits in with sort of the common good. My little strategy, I call it own it for good. Like, I really want to own these things, own my faith, own my choices for lifestyles that are healthy and good for me, good for the world, help me fulfill God's plan. And the things that don't, I want to count that. I want to hate that stuff by comparison. It's easier said than done. In the human, so also what he's talking about too here, because he uses a couple of examples of processes, it's not an instant like, oh, follow me, feel this way about your human life and your human people and all your relationships. No, we don't work that way. It's a process, but it's a willingness and an understanding of the direction I'm going in and what the ultimate cost is. But he also reminds us repeatedly, when you give up your life, you gain it. So it's also stepping out in faith, knowing that it feels like I'm giving up all these things, and it's going to feel scary and it's going to feel threatening, but I walk in faith and I trust the process and I do it anyway, knowing that that feeling is not always going to last, and that my desires end up getting in line with my new choices, and then it doesn't hurt in the end. It feels aligned, loving, and it allows me to actually more fully, because I'm detaching from my ego as I do this as well, to actually love people more fully and love myself more fully, love God more fully. That's the way his economy works. But it doesn't feel that way at first. It feels like a cost. And it is a cost, but it's a cost that's worth it, and a cost that doesn't always feel expensive. It feels worth it. It's valuable. It's an investment. All right. So I said I would keep it shorter today. I'm going to keep my promise. Rise and shine. I think we're getting ready to get a little bit of rain. Have a great day. Again, that was Luke chapter 14, counting the cost.